like to welcome everyone to the August 24th, 2026 regular meeting of council, and I'll call this meeting to order. Start with any announcements. Seeing none, motion to approve the agenda. Councillor Johnson.
I move to approve the August 24, 2026 regular meeting of council agenda.
Seconder, Councillor Cripps. Any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Carry. Okay, motion for minutes. Motion, please. Councillor Julie.
Move to adopt minutes from the July 20th, 2026 regular council meeting, the August 17th, 2026 committee of the whole.
Seconder. Councillor Seed. Questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Carry. Okay, we're going to move down to our delegation. We have the information, so meeting general, like some you're speaking. Whoever else you want to bring up to the podium, that would be fine. I'll just go over a couple things and then we'll give you your 10 minutes. So you get 10 minutes for delegations. We have had the information and the petition, and we've had a chance to review all of that information. And then council, beyond the 10 minutes or during the 10 minutes, can ask clarifying questions tonight. And then we'll also be getting the information from the golf board. They have a meeting tomorrow. And then we're also going to take a look at the contract, and within our bylaws, administration will be putting a report together. And that's when we discuss all of this information. So tonight is more clarification and hearing from the delegation and getting the information from you. So with that, welcome. Introduce yourself. And
Marcus, this is Peyton Miller. Okay. Yeah, we've just had a lot of concerns about what is happening behind Augusta Drive. We have tried. I mean, there's a number of us that have emailed, phoned, and whatever. Just one comment that I got from the manager. I don't know if he's here or not, but I had one comment one time when I phoned, and that was about just shortly before I talked to you. And so he said to me, he said, you know what? He said, you guys must have meetings every other day, because he said, you're all in cahoots and you're a bunch of minors. And he said, if you keep on what you're doing now, it'll be a rough behind there. It will not get moved at all. So that to me was a threat. You know,
who was that?
I have no, it was the manager of the golf course. Yeah.
Okay, I'll let you continue. Sorry.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. Is the city owning the golf course? Do they own the golf course like a private?
I think over the years we've been passed around. The golf course sends us to the city to complain. The city sends us to the golf course. And like Menno said, it's almost like they thought we had a meeting and we're in cahoots, because that's just over the years how many of us have individually called and emailed and done whatever we could with no positive experience received.
And we don't think that the city's involved, because we look at the west side parks there, they're absolutely beautiful. Sprees are beautiful. Our area, we haven't had a spree in our pond at all this year. For the last 3 years, we've had one spree in there, and half the time that didn't work.
And now they're just left sitting out there to view in the grass, in the dead grass, and amongst everything else. It's kind of just a trash yard.
Yeah. And I mean, the willows are kind of coming closer and closer to our yards. And the other time, the last time, they mowed it once this summer. That's it. And when they mowed it, the weeds are so, our willows are so high, they didn't even all cut off. So, I mean, it's still a mess. Even though they were kind of cutting the grass, it was horrible. You know, and I'm sure it's not the workers that don't know how to do it. Maybe they're on the time schedule. You know, we don't know.
It definitely would come from management. And I think our concern is not only the looks of it, we've all, put a significant investment into a property in Warman. This is not, and if it was one or two of us, maybe we missed something when buying a lot, but it's all of us. So nobody was open about what it was going to happen. And yes, we all understand things grow over years, but when things grow, it just requires more maintenance. Even if you would put those fountains in, there is so much overgrown. There's dead trees. Even when they cut the grass, it just creates, piles of dead stuff. I think a lot of residents have, said that there's a lot of rodents and whatnot in the past years here that everybody's dealing with. Everything growing through the fence. We all take pride in our yards, but we have all these weeds growing through the fence. People with pets are concerned. There's always foxtails in there blowing into yards. There's quite a few of us, will be honest, because of all these weeds growing in that aren't maintained, we jump the fence and whippersnip. We're left with no other choice. No one else is doing it, but then we get in trouble for that. So we're not really sure what to do. They're not maintaining it, but they don't want us to maintain it either. And like Menno said, you look at the rest of Warman and it is beautiful, which leads us to believe it is a golf course, but I know that there is a council member that sits on the board. So there must be some sort of an agreement, something that can be done. And it is not just Augusta Drive, it continues all the way down Palmer. It continues to people, which we found out after we had submitted that we could have got signatures from people along hole 1 as well. And so like I said, it's not just one or two of us, it is basically all of your Legends residents that are unhappy. So I think that we've all been kind of led to we obviously all had imagined a different purpose when we bought our lots.
And the first couple of years, they did a beautiful job. They would send their crew, they would whippersnip along the fence and everything. Like, it was beautiful. We had no complaints. And if people came by, we were proud to say, this is our golf course here. Now, we've had company coming from other provinces that are golfers. They said, this is what you have to put up with. This is pathetic. And that's our city. Like everybody said, Warman is a beautiful city. So why are they not keeping up on that end? That is my concern. Like, we want to keep Warman looking good. And when we built, we had restrictions that we had to follow because we were supposed to beautify the golf course. And that we were all proud to do that. We didn't complain about that. But our complaint is now that why are they not cleaning it up?
And we do believe that, in the past year, the city has maybe transferred us over to the golf course where we've gotten nowhere, where in the end, we are taxpayers of the city of Warman, and we do expect and appreciate some help and support from you.
No, and I know you guys are all doing a great job. We could drive around the city. It looks beautiful.
I drove by Crystal Springs the other day and I was jealous.
Yeah, no, and I did work on the west side, and 2 times in that 1 week that I was there, the mowers were there cutting. Well, we are lucky to get it once in the summer. Like, I think that's pathetic. That should not be. And the people, I don't know, do they think that the people don't see what's on the other side of the pond? I mean, when you got willows growing this high, to me, that's not appropriate.
Like he said, we have rules that we need to follow. I think the golf course obviously must or should have rules that they need to follow. That's all from my end.
Yeah.
Okay, just a quick clarification too. We do own the land, so we lease it to the golf course and they run it through the board, and Councillor Kevin Tooley is on the golf board, just so some of those things are clarified, that's how it's set up right now. Councillor Johnson, questions or comments? Go ahead, Councillor C.
Thanks for bringing it to our attention. Again, I'm certainly not the longest city councillor, but for as far as a petition from residents, I think that's the most signatures I've seen on a single bucket, to be honest. So, one, like you said, one person complaining might just be a one-off, but I didn't even count the amount of signatures that are on that list. So I think it's something that needs to be taken seriously.
Signatures, and I could have got more. So.
It's a point well taken, and there's been several of us that have been former reps on the golf board at different times. We should see here a couple of years. I know even during my tenure there was concerns that were raised. My understanding is that it's taken care of, and that was a number of years ago. So now to hear that it's either hasn't been since or has not been currently, I'm looking forward to getting some information back here. But I would be very surprised from myself personally if we didn't have an effective solution going forward. And your comments of you're required to maintain a certain aspect. Why isn't it across the fence required for the same thing? I support that comment.
And we were even talking about all these high willows that are growing there. I mean, if they don't want to do it, give us the permission to go and whack them down. If they want to clean them up, we'll whack them down. We want, when we bought that lot, we picked that certain lot because the spring was right there. Well, we can't see it now because we got to go 12-foot willow trees growing there. So we can't see nothing of that. And that was the beauty of why we bought it.
Other questions for clarification?
Clarification question. When you just mentioned when they spray, what did you mean by spray? Like, are you talking spraying the mosquitoes or spraying the Sorry, but you said that they spray, but they've only done it once.
No, it was like the water fountain, there was two in, and then there was only
Now
one
they're-
screen. Yeah,
Oh, okay. I thought.
now they're just laying there.
So they brought one out this spring, but it's never even been put
So
in.
nothing there in ponds.
No,
No, it never even hit the water.
Right, okay, thank you.
And I know last year, like, there was a number of times that the one didn't work and one just kept on cutting out. So anyway, I took and crawled over the fence because the breaker was off. So I turned the breaker on, and then one day I saw the maintenance guy there, and I asked him what was going on. And I told him that I had jumped over and turned the breaker on, that the spray would run. He said, "How come are you doing it?" And I said, "Your maintenance guys aren't." So that's why I took and did it.
I think something like that, we need to be careful because we don't know why the breakers turn off. So I would encourage you to be very careful doing something like that for your own safety.
Yeah.
I understand where you're coming from. I just think that when it's anything with a lockout or electrical or something that's turned off, there might be a good reason. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
I respect what you're saying.
Well, we knew it was tripping, because I had talked to him before. He said they do tripping, so we don't have, breaker.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Councillor, yeah.
So just a comment. Thank you very much for doing so nice, say concise document there. Well, and putting that together with photos is like they're gonna just kind of show the change here. So thank you very much for that. And also this year, dealing with something in black and white, that can now be dealt with, not like a phone call or that whatever. I think we'll go a long way. So at least it's nice and clearly, it's articulated, and that's it. We'll see what happens there.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks for allowing me.
Well, I'll wait. Any other questions or comments? Here. Yes, is that possible? Go.
I know a few years ago when we were getting quite a few complaints about the maintenance on the golf course, we had worked with the golf course. Basically, they were, I don't remember the distance exactly, but basically clearing kind of a swath behind all the houses, it's about 10, 20 feet out. Was that, did that help the issue at all, or?
no, it looked absolutely horrible.
Okay. I just want to
Just
clarification.
imagine grass up to here with that 10-foot swath going down the middle and then a mess again. It was not pleasant at all.
Thanks.
Other
Right
questions?
at the start there, when they used to mow, they mowed right to the pond. And then gradually they kept on going back. So that gave the willows a chance to grow.
Just maybe a question, clarification. Do we have sub pumps going back there? Like when I hear willows, a lot of times I'm wondering if water building up, like
They're right along those
Right by the
lines.
pond.
okay, but are there sub pumps going from the yards that, not that, okay, that would be specific.
They would be 20 feet away
Yeah.
or more from the.
Okay, whatever the bylaw is, they would be.
Yeah, my sump has, I have no water in mine whatsoever.
Okay. Sometimes when I hear willows, a lot of times that combination, but thank you for that.
Yeah, this is right along the pond itself. That's why I say, like, when they first started cutting, they cut right on the edge. So all of those willows, they were always cut every time.
You're along 10,
Sorry,
10.
Yeah.
Some of us would be a long time, yes.
They're pretty common.
right.
And then I guess along, end of 10 onto 11 along Palmer is
And
fine.
then right at the north end, they're really bad there. I don't think anybody there can see the pond anymore.
Other questions or comments?
Let's give a quick FYI. So since the petition came in, which I think was early August, so our last golf board meeting I was at was at the end of July. We usually meet once a month. So I have forwarded the petition off along to the board chair, as well as the general manager of the golf course, and asked that it be added to the next agenda, which is tomorrow. So next week's tomorrow. And then also asked it to be passed along to what's their greens committee. So that's the committee the golf board has that looks after the landscaping and the maintenance of the course. So that's the best I can give you for right now for information, but
Even an attempt would make us happy.
yeah.
Again, thank you, again, for putting this down on paper, the pictures, all the concerned citizens coming forward. That does trigger us to sort of go through all this process too, for us to hear all the different sides and then really understand our contract that we have as our leasees, that what needs to be done. So we can review all that and we give that to administration to do all that and bring a report back to us. And that's when we discuss it at that point where we give our opinions and what we can do and what the solutions are moving forward.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. You have a good day. Okay, we will move down to city manager reports. City manager, Rosie Palmer.
Good evening, Mayor Philipchuk and City Council. This report is the organizational review. Council has had the opportunity to review and discuss this report at committee of the whole, so I won't go back over the important piece tonight is that approval of the recommendation. You would give administration the authority to move forward with phase 1. Your administration will begin the implementation work, including finalizing the job descriptions and moving forward with recruitment and implementation of the positions council has approved. There will of course be some sequencing involved, particularly where there may be internal influence or why recruitment may result in a transition. So not everything would necessarily. And as a reminder, the recommendation tonight does not approve the positions identified in step 2 or the longer term phases. Those remain for future council consideration through the budget process. Tonight's approval essentially allows us to move the organizational planning into the implementation.
Okay, motion please. Councillor Mason.
Council Administration Stage 1, Step 1, Organizational Implementation, effective fall 2026, including consolidation of the director of infrastructure and director of planning and development portfolios, establishment of the director of corporate services, establishment of the manager of recreation and community services, establishment of the senior planner, establishment of the municipal engineer, approval of the associated salary ranges for phase 1, step 1 positions.
Senator, Councillor Grips, questions or comments? Councillor Two.
I know we've got sort of the term establishment in a couple of these. That's kind of almost just a reallocation. Like, especially for municipal engineer. We have a vacancy currently at that level.
You're right. So it's an establishment of a new position in our org chart, but it really is because we do have the director of infrastructure that was on our engineering position before. So yeah.
Just a quick comment for me. I appreciate the work on this. Again, getting consultants. It's a long process, doing the reflection from your vantage point as the city manager, overseeing what needs to be done and moving our organization forward, understanding our strategic plan, and knowing that we're also fiscally managed that way too, that knowing that just something that we can deal with that we budgeted last year. So I appreciate the work on this and the direction in this phased approach instead of let's do it all at once. So I think you're really looking out for the organization that way, the city that way. So I appreciate the work on that and all the work that's gone into it. Councillor Seaton.
So largely I support the direction we're going and I guess echoing some of the comments here already about the phased in approach. And I was surprised that I like that you're not just blindly implementing what the consultants do. You're trying to put your own tweak on it. The only thing I of course wanted with you a little bit over the last couple of days with it is I still have some concerns with regards to the director of corporate services and the definition of that job scope a little bit. So I'm not 100% prepared to support this today, seeing that I just personally would like to see a little bit more clarity and better understand the ultimate objective of that corporate services role based on the research that I've done, which I shared with you today, about the definition of roles across other municipalities and what their roles and responsibilities are. And then you did respond saying that some of those are not actually in the job description that we're looking for, but I haven't seen that really solidified on paper saying this is the roles and responsibilities. So right now I feel that the director of corporate services role is just a title right now with a clear definition in my mind. So that's why I'm not prepared to support that at this point, only because of that process.
So the real difference between the job description that you had found is just the financial services aspect of it.
So am I mistaken that even in the org chart and stuff and the information I saw from the consultant, I didn't see a very clear scope and definition of that position? So
the scope of that position would be sort of consolidating the positions that provide services across the organization. So it includes HR, bylaw, enforcement, communications, executive assistant, and managing the IT. So that's the scope of that position.
So so I definitely that doesn't really alleviate stuff for me. That actually makes me a little bit more concerned because it's a very, very high level role with a lot of skill sets that need to be involved and a lot of aspects that are reporting directly to them. Combining HR, IT, bylaw, things of that nature are almost something that I would expect to be on your desk, or even if you had an assistant with you to be able to do something like that. So again, not that I couldn't get there, I just have some concerns that aren't clarified to me at this point, so.
Other questions, comments, Councillor Bass?
Yeah, you know, just kind of build on corporate services director, just because of the name of that was mentioned, certainly with the HR and legislative service, you know, communications plus the whole list that was indicated in the page 7 of the report there. There was, you know, definitely a lot there. Like there again, in terms of each of the positions that are, you know, kind of presented, you know, for me, looking at it in terms of what exactly the job description is and how that works in overall. You know, certainly when it comes down to public organizations, it's a lot different than private, you know, not whatever, in terms of once a position is established, you know, not whatever. To change things up later, you know, not whatever is always a challenge. And, you know, one of the things that the, well, I guess a couple of things that the, you know, that staff group had actually put out to us, you know, was, you know, the fact that we're not actually fixing anything here, right? And that, right, you know, in terms of there's not, you know, like there's nothing broken, we're not fixing anything. Preparing for the future is good because that's then again designed exactly what we're sitting here to do. But with this year, they did, you know, kind of show this over a 5-year, you know, whatever. And you know, to me, it's very long. You know, it's a lot in a very short period of time. That I would just like to see better coordination first before actually establishing these positions. You know, with this year, there is a little bit of reorganizing. You know, let's say positions here that we have. You know, like on the engineering side and structure side. But there again, the other things just provide to me do need a little more clarity. And also this year, with where we are in terms of the year and, you know, strat planning for budgeting kind of coming up or whatever, to me, close enough where we can do a little bit more on alignment on those things. So, you know, certainly in terms of the report coming in, I think it's always handy and helpful. But the implementation is something that the report didn't actually give a lot of support to. So I think us kind of clearing that out as to how that's going to work.
Okay, other questions or comments? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, carried. Okay.
The next report I have is the fire services agreement. So council has already had the opportunity to review and discuss this agreement. The primary change since committee of the whole is the effective date. So the agreement presented at committee of the whole contemplated a January 1st, 2027 start date. And as we discussed in that meeting, we haven't quite decided how we were going to close that gap, whether it was going to be through an appendix or whether we were going to move that start date forward. And so the participating municipalities and the RM did agree to move that start date forward to January 1st of 2026. And this change is beneficial to the city of Warman because it means the improved funding model and other provisions of the new agreement will take place sooner. Council had previously approved an extension of the existing agreement to the end of September to allow time to complete these negotiations, but with the new agreement now finalized, it would instead replace that effective extension to the agreement, so it would take place July 1st. Other than the effective date, the other terms presented at committee of the whole remain unchanged.
Okay, motion please. Councillor Steve.
I'll move the council approve the fire services and protection agreement between the RM Park number 344 and participating municipalities effective July 1st, 2026. Authorize the mayor and city manager to execute the agreement.
Second. Councillor Johnson. Questions or comments? Councillor Steve.
Just one question, is that, and I appreciate now that it's, that the question has been answered as far as the 3-month gap that Council Beck brought up to the whole meeting. So being retroactive to July 1st, 2026, does that mean then that the any billings or percentage of the yearly, I don't know whether they're billed monthly or quarterly, whatever the case is, will be retroactive to July 1st?
I don't think we have any billings in that time period. Do we have any in that little time period, but in July to now?
Anything that has to do with the contract, no, we'll have billings, but that's part of our operational, and nothing that will affect that. And the RM is usually fairly slow to pay everything. I think they wait till the end of the year.
Okay, fair. So there's nothing like if it's like our yearly contract with that amount, they just pay it at the end of the year. It's not paid quarterly or monthly or anything like that. So you don't have to worry about being anything.
You bet.
Okay, that's the only question. I have.
Other questions, comments? Councilor Beck.
Yeah, I would just like to recognize administration and also our, working on this with our other partners to make these changes in such a short period of time. This was just last week. So, they're going to great work on that. And I very much support the change to the July 1st. This year, I did have that conversation with you. So, seeing how that difference. So thank you very much for all the work put into it.
Other questions or comments? I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. Starting to pour. The street still been dark. Okay, we will move down to Director of Finance. Oh,
Okay.
okay.
So the first item up here, in the Director of Finance report is the update to the cemeteries bylaw. And the recommendation we have is that council give a first read into the cemetery bylaw. With this specific bylaw, there weren't any changes from what had been presented at the other.
Okay, so this is only first reading, so we'll have a chance, it'll be advertised, and we'll have a chance for comments. So looking for a motion for first reading. Councilor C.
I'll move the council to the first reading of the bylaw 2026.
Seconder, Councilor Cripps. Any questions or comments? Councilor Beck, yeah.
Yeah, certainly with this year, the penalties in terms of the schedule B, let's say being added, whatever. So the habits, very much like that has been, noted in there. It's, like I said, nothing more confusing than, hey, here's the find, rate without being clear as to what that is activity and what it is. So thank you very much for that. Also with this year, with conversation that we had at committee, like there would be some additional work to be done, maybe not right away for the, this particular adoption, but in terms of how the asset management gets looked at, whatever. So like there would be more work on the backside of this. So even though that this would be something that eventually would be passed, that whatever, that there's still more work to be on there. Certainly like that resident, non-resident rate, that whatever, I think does need a little bit more, let's say work in terms of, only being a $400 difference. When you consider that all of the residents have gone into, let's say, providing the actual asset, that whatever in this particular case, like that $400 difference doesn't seem fair, and that, fair's a 4-letter word, right? Nothing ever, and there again, with that, like that difference doesn't seem to be realistic when you consider that the residents have kind of paid for that asset, put it out there, the way that the asset management of perpetual care, it actually kind of goes to, let's say, replacement of the asset, not actual, let's say, the upkeep and whatever. I think that there's a little bit of work on that. Like on that particular front. So hopefully on the asset management side, that whatever that we do, look a little bit more closely at that. Plus we also know that the, further arrangements in terms of insurance, whatever, like there's additional costs that are going to change everything.
Yeah, you're correct. These fees don't contemplate asset management and replacement of the current assets.
Yeah,
but certainly the bylaw itself, I think the refresh on there is certainly a improvement. So I'm willing to support that stuff and whatever, but just knowing that the job's not.
So, other questions or comments? Councilor C.
Just 2 comments. One, it's one of the better revisits of bylaw that I've seen since I've been on council. I appreciate the work going into it, really laying it out. And I also do really appreciate, we had discussed this earlier in the year, the effort to get towards the total cost recovery. I know we're not there yet, but we're closer, and I do think that it's fair to do this increase now, looking at next year doing a little more, maybe the year after that doing a little more, until we get to the point of we shouldn't be in the money of making or the business of making money off of this, but at the end of the day, recovering our costs is not an unreasonable goal, I should say. So I like that it's being kind of phased in, and I think it's a substantial upgrade.
And just one quick comment. I'm hopeful that we'll get some comments on on the increases here, because that's also a change too. And I think it's good to hear from our public to see what they have to say about those changes. So that's the opportunity of having a first reading. Other comments? Okay, so not all in favor?
Okay, so the next report here is a quarterly financial report. And no changes here from what was presented at committee of the whole, nothing that comes out as red flags for administration. And so the recommendation is that it be approved, the quarterly financial report be approved as presented.
Motion please. Councillor Grips.
I move that council approve the June 30th, 2026 quarterly financial report as presented.
Seconder, Councillor Mason. Questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
The third item that we have here is the reserve policy, and there are some changes that were made to this policy following the direction from council and the discussion that was had at the committee table after the committee of the whole meeting. And so you'll notice now with the reserves that are being taken out, we're not doing this. We're not recommending the same sort of changes to the reserve policy that you've seen in committee of the whole. So the only policy I think that we were now recommending we remove, maybe there weren't actually any anymore. There were just the addition of those policies for the offsite development, and then just some wording throughout the policy that adds clarity to the framework, improves, the administration reporting, and formalizes the existing reserve practices.
Okay, motion please. Councillor Cooley.
I move that council approve the proposed amendments to the reserve policy P29-2015 and adopt the revised reserve structure as presented.
Second, Councillor Grips. Questions or comments? Councillor C.
Again, I appreciate the responsiveness to council's feedback. I think the committee as a whole is really good. And I do really like, very clear parameters for the offsite development fee reserves and what the residential commercial split is. And I think that what that does is that long-term investors that are looking at our communities are not necessarily opposed to that the amount that they have to pay for offsite development fees, but they are concerned about where the money going, right? And what is the key use for? So I think that gives a really good clarity as to, like, yes, you might be spending X amount of dollars, but this is what it's going for. So I think that really will help with our future investments as well. And I guess property developers.
It'll give us a lot of transparency. We're putting back to the developers.
And that's what investors want. They want to eliminate the red tape, which we're really good at doing, and they want very clear guidelines as to what's happening with the money that they're putting into it, because for their shareholders, it's secure issues. So,
Other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Carry. We'll move down to Director of Planning, Director Gill.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll check members of council. 2 items for discussion tonight. The first is the Warman Accessibility Advisory Committee terms of reference report. So since committee of the whole, we did take council's feedback into account and made some changes around the membership as well as some of the voting. As per the discussion, just to clarify some of those terminology, especially around the administration and who has the right to vote and all of that. Other than that, not many changes were made. So I guess I'll just start to the chair to open it up for questions.
Well, we'll look for a motion first. Motion, please. Councillor Matt.
I believe the council approves the terms of reference for the Warman Accessibility Advisory Committee and approve the establishment of the Warman Accessibility by statute.
Seconder, Councillor Johnson. Questions or comments? Councillor Beck.
Thank you very much for the inclusions in terms of like the supporting documents there. For me, like the term of reference, very clear in terms of how it's going to be formulated and what the focus is going to be on. So, for me, I very much appreciate that clarity.
Other question, Councillor C.
Only one comment on it, and I've spoken to Director Colt about this, and indicated that I would bring this up. Is that the only concern I have is just under the terms of reference under section 3.1, where it has citizen representatives. Specifically, it just says 3 additional. It says
3 people from it.
Yeah, 3 administrative members, which is actually under 3.2. I apologize. I was looking for a little more clarity on that, what that meant. Like, I mean, to me, is that like anybody who works at City Hall is an administrator that can be there? Director Tolles indicated to me that through the conversations internally, the intention was to have the Director of Planning and Development, the Fire Chief or Deputy Fire Chief, and the Recreation Director on that board. So all I would like to do is put perhaps like a sponsor-friendly amendment to say, that would be changed to include those three positions, if you will, as opposed to just saying three members of administration. That's the only, just for clarity moving forward, because I think it shows the intent behind it.
Okay, I'd have to go to the mover and seconder on that. I don't know if I support it fully, but I guess we can, because it may change the intent. If there's different conversations, they may change the administration where it locks their hands all the time. That's the intent, which is good, but then it's knowing three are available. But
I guess if I could just wonder, I guess like, you know, I'm okay if it's not specifically that it's, you know, Chief Austin or anything like that, but I think that it should be directors or managers. Maybe perhaps that as opposed to just administration is anybody that works for the city of Warman, in the front office or anything of that nature. So
I tend to like the second option a little bit better, where it's a little more general, just because, and I apologize, I didn't think of this one today, but one of the risks with being too specific is, I think to the mayor's point, that if, you know, say hypothetically one of us three leave and maybe the next person isn't the right person for that type of committee, that we would have to come back for the terms of reference. So be keeping it a little more general, like just give us the flexibility in that type of situation, but.
okay, I think I'll ask the mover and seconder first, if you're okay with it going from administration to directors or managers. Yeah, I'm okay with that too. And I'm fine with that being a friendly amendment because the intent is the same and really it leaves flexibility too. So we'll speak to that as unless somebody wants to speak against that, but go ahead, Councilor.
What, whether it's speaking against it, I don't know, but like, to me, the intent is the staff should have the ability, like, not even if you guys left, but if someone comes on, like, this person is absolutely perfect for this committee, right? Like, they might have previous experience in it. Like, for me, this is something where we should be able to rely on our staff to put the right people at that table. Like, the city manager or director, total should be able to say, okay, these are the right people that should be at that seat. I'm kind of with the mayor, like, we don't need to make it so it's got to be specific people or even managers, because it might not be a manager that comes into one of these positions that has a wealth of experience in this area. And you're like, this is the perfect person for the committee. So to me, like, it should be up to our city manager to say, yeah, this person, these are the three people I feel. She should have her best interest in heart all the time, whether it's Amanda or the next city manager, that's their role. So their role should be put the right people on these committees in these positions, and they should know better than us sitting here of who those people are in their staff. So I like leaving it open and letting staff say, these are the people we have that should be here.
Okay, I'll let others speak to that and we can talk.
I think I like the idea of those three targeted areas being planning, recreation, and fire. And I wonder if maybe just a little bit, you know, as far as even the director manager piece, maybe a little bit more broad, just to keep it, you know, technical advice from, you know, Warman Fire Rescue, planning and development, and recreation, you know, as appointed by the city manager, or something along those lines. You know, and that might not be all encompassing. Like it could be something where that may change over time, or those delegates may change. But I think if we get too sort of narrowly focused on it, it might make it a little bit cumbersome to work with. But if we go a little bit more broad, then, you know, it may not necessarily be that it needs to be the director of recreation. It might be a position below that along the way.
Councilor Steve.
I think hearing the conversation, like even what Councilor Cripps said, like, I don't have an issue at all if it's, you know, three members of administration to provide technical advice, background information, administrative support committee as appointed by the city manager. To me, that's fine. Like, it's not. We know the intent because we've been discussing it. We've been working through this process as it's been coming along. We've discussed it in quite in depth. And my only thing is that the intent behind it, I hope to see that carry forward to future councils as well. And just having three administrators doesn't carry, I think, the weight of what we've been discussing at this. So if it's just literally added, and I guess that I don't know if that's another amendment or how that works, but if it's appointed by the city manager, I think that covers it, because if city manager decides that, you know, the fire chief is the right person, or the director is the right person, or whatever, it's their appointment, and at least it's being covered. So I'm fine with that.
Okay, I will ask again. I guess because it's a friendly amendment, it's not changing intent. So are you okay with it being as directed city manager? Yeah. As city manager, okay. Any other questions or comments on this one? That does leave it open. And at the end of the day, I think Councilor Cripps brought up a good point too, that you have a person that has a vested interest and really wants to be a part of this, that's now a part of the Warman team. I don't think we want to give any reason why they can't be. And so I think this opens that up, that the city manager has that authority to have them as part of this group. Councilor Johnson.
I'm like sad that I couldn't get the original committee of the whole, because I love everything about this. I think it's what we stand for here with, inclusivity and also safety in the community, and just to be able to have voice from lived experience. And I'm excited that this has come to fruition. So thank you for all the work that you've done. I appreciate it.
Other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Carry. You got all those changes?
I'm good.
Okay, good. I just want to appreciate it.
So was that voting on the amendment, or was that?
Oh, we didn't amend. It was a friendly change. So, yeah,
yes.
so no amendments there.
As long as clerically, we're
We're
good.
good.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you. The next item is related to the tradition stage 4 subdivision. We're starting with the first reading of our rezoning bylaw. This will advertise for 2 consecutive weeks before it comes back to council for recommendation for second and third reading. We've provided a little more context just based on the discussion in committee as a whole by showing kind of an air photo there with the area that this includes. And I think we just in the discussion.
Okay, I'll open up for a motion, please. Councilor Beck.
Yeah, I move that council give bylaw 2026-08, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2018-06, known as the zoning bylaw, first reading at this regular meeting of council.
Seconder, Councilor Cripps. Questions or comments? Councilor Beck.
Yeah, thank you very much for the overview map in terms of where that fits on there. Because, it certainly gives a little bit more context. Yeah, and and then you kind of, let's see how that fits on the map.
Yeah, we should be providing that every time, so we'll make sure.
Other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Carry.
The next item is purchase of 103 Central Street West. Sorry. I guess council's been in discussions. Administration approached the owner of the property next door once we realized that closing session was in the process of closing down. We had an appraisal done on the site, and we offered based on the appraisal, and the owner accepted. So we had our solicitors put together the offer to purchase, which we passed through council's information. And we're looking for a motion to move forward with that purchase. We, I guess, only changed since I guess we originally discussed it, and I think most of the council knows this because it's been in the Friday file. But we did move, or we requested, and we didn't have any issue with this because there's not a huge rush. But we were requested to move the possession date from September 1st to October 1st, and of course we complied with that. We did have with the city manager a bit of brief discussion with the current tenant of the property, and she's going to let us know if she needs a little bit of extra time beyond possession date, but we said that would be a problem, and just we'll work with her. So I guess we'll open the motion.
Motion, please. Okay, Councilor Cripps.
I move the council approve the purchase agreement for 103 Central Street for the value of $640,000 plus applicable taxes and fees as presented.
Seconder, Councilor C. Questions or comments? Councilor C.
I just want to thank administration for their work on it. I mean, it's a steep price, there's no question about it, but it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, and it coincides so well with the future plans for development for the city and to meet not only our current needs but our ongoing needs. So it's a great opportunity. I'm glad that administration was able to move forward so quickly on this.
Other questions or comments? Councilor Cripps.
Yeah, I'll just echo that. Like the fact that that became available before we finalized the plans for the city hall addition renovation and the RCMP. Like the timing couldn't be better. It's just like, wow, kudos, awesome.
Other questions or comments? Okay. Yes. All those in favor? Carried.
Thank you. The final item for discussion tonight, the second final item for discussion is the Highway 305 at Centennial Boulevard report. This was discussed at committee of the whole. To that discussion, we decided to add the addition of traffic signals as part of our request. Other than that, nothing's really changed from our initial report. So I will throw the recommendation to the chair.
Okay, motion please. Councillor Beck.
So I'd like to move that council request the Ministry of Highways to begin the process of installing traffic signals to create a controlled intersection at Highway 305, Centennial Boulevard, as per the Highway 305 access study recommendations.
That's a change from what was.
Yeah. So this year I'm leaving out to reduce the speeds and the improved lighting. We talked about the lighting at the committee of the whole. And yeah, for this year, like there was, anyways, I'm saying that's.
Okay, can you repeat it? I guess following the motion.
So it's basically bullet number 3. So I move that council request the Ministry of Highways to begin the process of installing traffic signals and to create a controlled intersection at Highway 305 and Centennial Boulevard as per the Highway 305 access study recommendations.
Okay, second for that, Councillor C. Questions or comments? Councillor C.
Just my comments on it are is that after reading through this, it's actually kind of funny that Councilor Beck has brought that up because I intended the question anyways, is that my understanding is after reading the Highway 305 access study recommendations, that if it is a long-term plan for installing signals at that location anyways, and part of that implementation, if you look at the Ministry of Highways and their requirements is that if there were signal lights there, that the reductions would be part of that anyways. They're not going to put a signal light in the middle of a 100-kilometer-an-hour speed zone. They have to reduce it, put up signs that say, important intersection coming up, things that we've all seen throughout the province anyways. And then with regards to the improved lighting along there, I believe that my opinion has changed on that during the committee of the whole discussion, where there was people with significant experience in it saying that the lit intersections like that can actually be problematic at night because they actually eliminate headlights. So you can't actually tell if there's a physical vehicle in the intersection without the lights on, where there's no street lights, so to speak, no like overhead white lights, allows the headlights of vehicles to be far more predominant. So that's why I'm supporting the recommendation as this.
Okay, can I get the administration's take on this? Because coming to us, we discussed this at committee of the whole, and then it's some of the things we discussed at committee of the whole are summarized within the motion that was recommended, but I understand it's different, but I'd like to hear administration. Are we missing components that we will need in a letter, or?
I think the lighting is kind of an optional leave in or take out from council's perspective. I don't know if that would necessarily impact any of our requests to the highways. I do, just from my experience with highways, have a bit of concern about taking a formal request for the speed reduction out, and mainly because highways typically likes to do things in sequences. And my concern with taking that out is they've already started discussions within reducing speed limits, and for us to not do that with our formal ask for traffic signals, we may get nothing then at that point. So, I don't see how, especially to Councillor C's point, with it being part of the access study and the part of installation of the traffic signals anyways, that it really hurts for us to reiterate our request for the reduced speed. The other thing I guess I'd say, and I'll shut up, is with the speeds, we've heard a lot from the public as of late that they'd like to see the reduction of speed. In fact, we haven't heard anything about installation of traffic signals, but we have heard the reduction of speed. So I would just hate to lose this opportunity, if I can put it that way. And I don't look at accidents as opportunities, but just in this situation for what we're looking for, I think it would be to our best interest to include the reduction of speed as well.
Great, Councillor Cripps.
And correct me if I'm wrong. having that in there, like it's gonna be a ways before we get traffic lights. It's not like we're gonna get traffic lights there in a month, but we might get the reduction of the speed, quicker. So at least they'll come in, reduce the speed, and then they'll come in and do the traffic lights. So I'm kind of along the same opinion as you. At least if we can get the speed reduced, because they do it in phases, then while we're waiting on traffic lights to go in, at least maybe the speed gets reduced and,
I tend to, sorry. I tend to agree with Councillor Cripps, just in terms of the other part with the traffic signals is they're not going to just install traffic signals. They're going to have to go through a few studies and this and that, do traffic counts. Whereas the speed limit, because it's already been part of the discussion, I think with the formula, you can see speed reduction before winter.
Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, I think something needs to be done. I understand exactly where you're coming from with this part of the process, but something needs to be done in the interim to show and to kind of just, especially if the comments are being made by the community, we need to do something there. I think immediately, and then get that ball rolling with the lights, because I don't want to wait. With that. So I think that the lights I'm not 100% sure on, but anything that's going to help alleviate any kind of issues or worries and concerns of safety, then I think we have to look at doing any and all.
My concern with not including the speed is they'll take the lights, which are not a for sure thing by any means at this point. I know it's in the access management study, but if they do a study on that intersection, it doesn't come back as a fail, they have no reason to do anything at that point. And I think with keeping the speed in there, at least we get that fairly quickly. And I'm fairly confident that they'll move that direction just because of already existing conversations. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay, Councillor Mason.
I'm also of the opinion I would like to see the reduced speed as part of our motion. I'm okay with leaving the lighting part out, but I don't see the harm, and I understand that it's in the report, but just why not have it there and make it something that we're reiterating what we want done.
And just I'll have a couple comments here. I actually think the lighting support, probably gonna get more comments on that, and probably Glen Abbey is being part of it, that they see where the turnoffs are, but at the end of the day, that area being lit up. And there's not a lot of cost to that. That's one that now they know it's an 80 kilometer because it's got lower lights. I think being specific helps all of us with our messaging. Even what's reported tonight, if we just say we want one thing, it probably doesn't get us that sequencing of very clear to when we are talking to ministers or when we're talking to other people about what we want. We want lower speed limit, we want lighting, and we want to eventually see lights, the study to get to where we can have lights. So I guess for myself, and I'm hearing not everybody, probably majority, though I've heard comment that way, that I guess I'm looking for a process that we need to defeat this to be able to come up with another motion, or if we can make an amendment to add those other points in there. I guess we probably have two options, and then we can either defeat the amendments and go from there. So I'm just wanting to give you the process, and I mean, if somebody calls a question, we'll vote on what's on the table, and I'm fine with that too. Councillor Steve.
Just to further with the conversation and to push back a little bit on it, part of the concern for me is that we're asking for three things, and based on the status of what the provincial government has done for us so far is, so if they give us 2 out of 3, they'll say good enough. Okay, which is not the ultimate objective, I think, what we're looking at. And when I'm looking at it going, we want to reduce the speed to 80, let's be very real here. We can't get speed reduction to be enforced in our own city. We could mark it down to 10 kilometers an hour if we want. If there's nobody there to stop it, it's not going to change. So putting a sign up that says 80 kilometers an hour means diddly squat, because vehicles aren't going to slow down. We see that when we're on the highway and we're driving on Highway 11 and you're doing 120, you feel like a turtle because people are going by you, going 30, 40, 50 kilometers over the speed limit. Why do they do it? Speed limit's posted 110, so they can't drive 130, 140, right? Well, there's nobody there to enforce it. They're going to continue to do it. And by having a sign up there, it's not going to change anything. People are still flying through that intersection. Collisions that have happened at that intersection, well established through the accidents that have been there, the people have been exceeding the speed limit. So why is putting a sign up just simply going to solve it? That's why, for me, traffic lights, it's part of the highways plan anyways. They are, they're not an insignificant cost, but as that study also calls for that intersection when we move to the north of that, those traffic signals can also be relocated at that time. So yes, it is a significant cost, but it's not a cost that we don't expect. It's just putting it in a little bit earlier. And I fundamentally believe, and I'll stand by it, that specifically saying the traffic signals there is extremely important in my opinion.
Councillor Chris.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Speeders are gonna speed, but 95% of the public does 10 kilometers over the speed limit. So if the speed limit's 110, they do 120. If the speed limit's 80, they'll probably do 90. So you are still reducing the speed limit for 95% of the traffic by 20 kilometers an hour, which, is significant. Now, are you still gonna have people go flying down there? It doesn't matter what you do. They're going to be trying to time lights there. We were all 17, 18, and we had friends with muscle cars. And as long as you have teenagers, and you're going to have speeders, but it will reduce the speed on that road for 95% of the public by 20 kilometers an hour.
Councillor Batson and Councillor Toole.
Yeah, so my reasoning for, going for the traffic, let's say for the traffic signals and sticking to that is there's a elevation difference between the highway and Centennial Boulevard. And there again, we were told to come in at that particular elevation. That's what we did. So we did what we were asked for. There is that 1 meter, difference and whatnot. And it's very troubling for traffic heading north, not that ever, to be able to see, the oncoming, traffic and determining their speed. So whether or not we set it 80 or 100 or whatever, bottom line is that, ultimately we're talking about traffic safety. We see that when collisions do happen there, that it can be, certainly very catastrophic and whatnot. So to me, the best solution is the lights. If those other things, are recommended by Ministry of Highways, and that's what they implement, let's say like that lower standard. At least with this here, we've asked for everything that, let's say that's the most secure option. And if the Ministry of Highway says, well, you know what, we want to come back, we want to, change the speed limit to 80 and, add some lighting and whatnot. And if that's their quote unquote lower cost solution, still an improvement. But I think, staying to the, the ask for lights to me makes sense because then everything's controlled. So then if something there does happen, whatever, witness would say, hey, green light and so and so at red light and whatever. I think from the traffic, investigation aspect and, for the control, to me, that makes sense. And it's the highest level that we can ask for public safety. And I think Warman's deserve that.
Okay. Councillor Toole.
I think I've lost even what my comment was going to be.
Okay. I'm not disagreeing. I probably comments to Councillor Cripps. Like when I go by roster now, I slow down. Like I don't go 110 anymore. And the crew doesn't go by me either. I don't get people flying by me. There's lights there. Maybe there is at times. I'm not saying there isn't people doing it. Remember, this is double lane highway too. This is much more safe than what we're dealing with that's there. There's a sign. It's a flashing sign that shows me what my speed is. I follow what the crew does, and I'm going to that intersection that's there. So I don't disagree. I don't know why in some ways it's frustrating that we're arguing over this because we're asking for all the same stuff. It's just we're asking for all three things instead of one thing and I think all three are important because I think again when I go by roster and if they just had that intersection. That's not enough, but by doing all the different things that are there, I realize we want traffic lights, but traffic lights will be a fully engineered everything else happening where that speed change could probably happen within the year, same as lights could probably be topped up fairly quick too, that is a designated area to go slower. So I don't know why we're not asking for all three because we really want all three anyway, but we're almost giving an out in my mind to the provincial government to say, okay, just put the lights there. Let's not worry about the other stuff. So I think we're not traffic experts. That's not my area. And maybe it's to even take it all off there and then say, let's just get them to come up with to solve the problem of the accidents in that area, because the elevation and all those things are going to be taken into consideration if they put lights in. That won't just happen without those types of things being looked at and monitored. So, I mean, I'll call the question if there's no other questions with it, Councillor
Well,
Johnson.
and I was just gonna say, like, I think, I understand where you're coming from, definitely, but we have to have some kind of traffic mitigation in the meantime. We're not going, yes, we're starting off with the lower cost item, but with the hopes in the process that we get to that point. I just worry that because there's nothing going to be there. I drive that highway to the Ross, and there are people that, yep, they're starting to go fast, but when they see most people slow down, they hammer on their brakes. And I do that every day. And I see that and coming there and back. And they are honoring that sign. And if they'll go, some will go 100, or once they get past the blinky sign, then they'll go 94 or 95. But again, it's I think we have to do something, and then these first two are a good way of getting started until we can get those traffic lights done.
And this is all highways. We're not doing anything in the sense we are requesting as their road is going into our city. And, we've got a few areas that we talked about safety in and out of our city. And so I think we are giving a recommendation, and I think hearing from Director Toth saying that that's very important for them to even hear that we are considering going down to 80, because that's one thing that they don't want pushback from the city if they do lower it to 80, saying, well, we want that more. So that they want us to be on side with that. I think that's very clear, black and white, that we would be on side with that for them. Councillor Steve.
I think just, and again, I know we could discuss this for a long time, but I'll just make two other points to kind of put where my head was at on this. One, I have reduced faith in the industry of highways, because in the 6 years I've been on council, I've been hearing about things they're going to do in 15 years. In 15 years, in 15 years, in 15 years. We've asked for, changes to be made at the south entrance. We've asked for, with consultation on different things that we think we need to do to improve safety. And from my standpoint, they've done very little to help with any of those concerns. That being said, my understanding is, and I would appreciate if Chief Austin cares to weigh in on this, my understanding of some of the most recent accidents, and I believe it's representative of the majority of accidents that have happened there, are not necessarily just a speed issue. What they are is they're a sightline issue. And by that being, what I'm saying is we're thinking of a bird's eye view looking down at it. When people are proceeding north across the highway and somebody is turning to the right, heading east onto 305, the line of sight for the vehicle that's in the middle is blocked. It doesn't matter if you're doing 50, 60, 80, 100, or 110. If you can't see a vehicle, you can't see a vehicle. Traffic lights there, does everybody adhere to traffic lights? No. Okay, we understand that. But if traffic lights are there, it prevents all vehicles, in theory, from proceeding through the intersection east to west while vehicles are turning right or proceeding north. So that's where my head comes at from it. I respect the opinion of Director Toth, but for me, if it's not traffic lights, it's not going to improve the intersection. And I would be very curious to see the data numbers, even if lights or reduction in speed is there, whether we actually get a reduction in collisions there, because I fundamentally do not believe that will happen. That's where my head's at.
Point well taken. I guess the only other thing I will say is you may not see a huge reduction in collisions, but I think your collisions will be a lot less at 80 than they would be at 110. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, I'll call the question on this one. Nobody's asked for any changes, so I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Defeated. And does somebody want to make an alternative motion on that? Councillor Cripps?
I move that council request the Ministry of Highways reduce speeds on Highway 305 between the interchange and Thompson Road to 80 kilometers an hour. Improve lighting along Highway 305 between the interchange and Centennial Boulevard, and begin process to install traffic signals to create a controlled intersection at Highway 305 and Centennial Boulevard as per Highway 305 access study recommendations.
Second. Councillor Johnson? Any questions or comments? Councillor Beck?
Okay, so I will be willing to support it because it is going to be an increase in safety. That said, with this year, I do believe that the traffic lights is the premier and, like the way to go on this. Mainly for the sightlines, that I described, I think it's actually quite well by Councilor C and that kind of thing. And I think the other points here give the Ministry of Highways a way out and a reason to say no to the intersection being controlled. And like there again, certainly the increase of safety and wanting to take it, but I think that what will be done there will fall short, in that whatever. And there again, it's going to be our firefighters going out to to the collisions that are right there, and not asking for let's say like the catch-all or the highest standard. To me, fall short. So there again, willing to support what's coming through, but I think it's a watered down standard.
And I'm just going to comment to that exactly what you had in your motion is there. And it can be what we say that we're trying to get. But in the meantime that we're trying to get to all those things, we have different options that are there. So there's no water down. Because even when I'm conversing with the minister, I can say we want traffic lights there, but we need something done immediately so we can get there. So you can do your engineering to be able to get there. So I think I take exception that it is a watered down, like it's all the things that we're trying to do to create safety in that area in a much larger area, because we're going all the way to Thompson Road there, right off the highway, all the way to Thompson Road. We're making comments on not just the one specific area, because there's going to be pressure on Thompson Road in the next few years that people are going to start wanting to use that area to get in and out of our city. Councilor Kurtz.
Yeah, I agree. My thoughts on it are like the lights are going to take a traffic study. And I'm not willing to wait until, that's the other side. I'm not willing to wait till they go do a traffic study and, come along and go, yeah, okay, lights are the right way to go. And meanwhile, we just stuck with status quo. There's no lights, there's no reduced speed limit. Like, we're all saying traffic lights, and that's what we talk about all the time on this table. When you're talking to the ministers, when you have the deputy minister of highways, around who's in this community all the time, tell me you want traffic lights. But at least we're saying, we want traffic lights, but we don't want it to stay status quo until we get them. We want the reduced speed and lights right now and traffic lights ASAP. That's my take on why I went with it.
I'm just going to add that when we craft, because there'll obviously be a letter that goes along with the motion to the highways. When we craft the letter, we'll try to encompass the council's discussion so that they understand that our top ask is the lights, but we understand that there's a sequence that goes along with it somehow, so that we make sure that we're not because I think there are good points that are being brought up. So we will try and encompass that in the letter that we sent with the motion, but I still think that the motion containing all three is our best bet.
Councilor C.
So I just want to be on the record that I will support, this because I'm not going to vote for nothing, that's for sure. But I do also want to push back a little bit on comparing Thompson Road, even in the future, to Centennial and where it is right now, because the access to Osler, the access to larger things that are along that road are not comparable to Thompson Road. Centennial is a arterial road within the city of Warman, and a lot of people do use it to get to communities that are located to the north of us, whereas Range Road 3051 only goes forward for another section. So it will never have the traffic that Centennial has crossing there. That being said, again, I respect the fact that we're saying this is part of the process and that we don't want to wait. It is standard practice in engineering and the research that I did when traffic signals are inputted to do the reduction in speed and all of those things, and it's been proven time and time again through Saskatchewan. And the bottom line is, I just don't have faith in the Ministry of Highways. That's what it comes down to. And I do believe that Councilor Beck is correct in what he's saying, and I would be very mindful of the fact that I believe that we'll ask for all three, and I think we'll get you got 2 out of 3, so and that will not include the lights. That's my prediction, and that's my concern. So rather than say no to the lights and come back with other recommendations, then just be able to pick and choose as they've done in the past.
Okay, other questions or comments? Okay, see none, all in favor? Carry.
The final item for discussion tonight is related to the childcare request that came in from Warman Childcare. Basically, as we're all aware, Warman Childcare is opening a second location on the south end. As they start to open this, they're realizing there's some extra need for liquidity, I guess, when they're purchasing some of their furniture, getting some of their startup costs ready to go. So they put in a request that we extend the term of the current agreement to 30 years from today. And this is in order to satisfy some of their lenders' conditions that they're looking at for offering them a loan.
Okay, motion please. Councillor Trips.
I move that council approve the request to extend the term of the existing lease agreement with the Warman childcare to 30 years from September 1st, 2026.
Seconder. Councillor Johnson, questions or comments? Councillor Back.
Yeah, so, certainly this year, this is a third party, let's say request, kind of coming through and whatnot. To me, it doesn't impact the current site, the agreement here that we have. This year, if there is 19 years, remaining on the term. And, section 3.02 from the agreement, says that, that the agreement has first right of refusal, as long as it's in the city purview to continue on. So, I don't know that, this is nothing that impacts the current site or whatnot. So, I stand by the agreement with that.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Okay, carried. Okay, thanks. Okay, motion to file administration reports. Councillor Julie.
I move to file administration reports.
Second. Councillor Mason, any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Okay, my report. Any questions from that? Busy weekends. It was a good weekend. Lots of networking. Like all those people that probably we talked about needing to talk to, they were there this weekend. So I think it was a good. That was at the 150th treaty signing, our treaty agreement anniversary in Fort Carlton. So it was a lot of really good conversations with elected officials, with partners, with just industry leaders, which really it was good that way. So that's the only thing I'll comment on. That I didn't really get a chance to have any comments in my report about that because I didn't know for sure how many days I even going. Okay, none. Motion to file my report. Councillor C.
Move that the mayor's report be council followers. I move that the mayor's report be filed as presented.
Seconder, Councillor Johnson. Any final comments? All in favor? Carry. Okay, round table. Councillor Beck.
Yeah, I think so. We had a chamber board meeting, and so it was certainly good to to see the executive director, the new executive director there, and whatnot, and quite a few new faces around the table when City Warman had last presented there. So I will say we had some really good questions coming through. Highway 305 there's several questions about that, and it was actually asked about lights, kind of. So, certainly this year, some really good questions from the chamber, and there again, that was both from representatives from Warman and from Martinsville on that. Some questions around rideshare and what the limitations were for there. The group is definitely familiar about our work on that, and really kind of questioning. And the question kind of came up: why are we dragging our feet on it? And so we had advised them that we were going to send through some information. Mayor Philip followed up on that. Was sending through what the limiting factors were and whatever. So that was certainly communicated. So thank you for doing that. And like there again, quite a bit of anticipation over so like the Wobie and whatnot. And this year, I think we may have actually recruited one more member, to sign up for that because it looked like he had some free time, and it was a low barrier cost, to sort of join in. So there again, at least we know from a pricing standpoint, pricing is not a barrier on that. And there again, that's our opportunity to reach out to the to the business community and help represent them to the overall stakeholders here in our city and our region. Also this year I had a chance to go to summer school, and there again, we talked about networking and whatnot. So there again, great opportunity there to to meet with our peers, mayors, councilors from across the province and whatnot. And yeah, just a great opportunity there. Seen a really good presentation from the ombudsman in Ecuador. So that was really well done, to the point where I figured that that would be something beneficial for us. So they do actually, come up to do presentations and whatnot. So there's up to city manager Rosenthal Hebert to about steps going for that. So we did extend that opportunity. I know that the first opportunity there didn't quite work out because they were already obligated, but I think the opportunity there for them to come in the future, I think would certainly be there. So hopefully we have that opportunity. That's it for me, sir. Great, thank you. Councilor Johnson.
Yeah, I haven't been here since July. Missed a couple meetings. I completed the GEMS course, so that was kind of my summer reading. We have a fire meeting coming up, I believe, on the 7th of September. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And then before our next meeting. And then, yeah, I was at the Treaty 6 150-year commemoration on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It was an awesome opportunity. So a lot of people was able to connect, and I've gone with my staff too. So that was a nice thing to be able to, something so close. To see the actual treaty document was pretty cool, and just be a part of it with so many dignitaries there. It was awesome. So I really enjoyed that. And then library board coming up later. But, yeah.
What's your
It's been quiet on the council side for summer, as summer usually is, but I do agree with Councilor Beck. He also took in a presentation from the ombudsman, and I think I said the same thing as you. It's great. I think everybody should get to partake in that. And I'm trying to complete the GEMS course online, and I'll say it's frustrating using the online that they have, to say the least, trying to restart, find where you were every single time. And I may or may not have thrown some curse words and threw it to the side a couple times, but I'm working on it. I warned you. I said that. I'd already started.
I have a rec board meeting this week, Pimahog Creek next week. I'm half on gym. I think it's like, for somebody that's new to municipal politics, I think it's been there's a lot there for me to learn and to just to have a better understanding of. So some of it is very frustrating, but it's really good for me to go through this. And I think it's something that, like, if you have new councilors in the future for a city municipality, I think it's a great thing to do. Like, it's really worthwhile. So
good. Let's proceed.
Yeah, it's been fairly quiet. I did appreciate the opportunity to attend the summer staff barbecue last week, although I was 15 minutes summer time for it. It's just nice to see the staff all recognize their appreciate it. We got a burger and entertaining here, all some of our residents interacting. We'll leave that one at that, because that's not language appropriate for the council table. But beyond that, I am doing the GEMS as well. I had to get in contact with their technical representative because twice it restarted me and wouldn't allow me to proceed to. I did the first two modules, trying to do the third one, and stopped about 2 into the third module because of time constraints for myself. And when I went back in, is that I hadn't completed anything. So that was super frustrating. But they did see the result of that. First two reinstated, if you will. But I had to take the test again, the final thing on them again to be able to that I had done them. So it is a good program for sure, but beyond that, just looking forward to school getting back in for the kids. I do appreciate some of that urgency that Director Tultz put on some of the improvements for crosswalks in particular along Augusta Boulevard. Raised some concerns there that some of them may haven't been completed yet, and whether they were in the schedule or not, they got done. So that's all I hear. So I appreciate that going forward.
Yeah, a couple things. I was in the city caucus meeting, I think that was, August 11th. I did include the package. One of the interesting conversation points that came up, was around the community safety officers. And I took note that, Humboldt is actually utilizing the community safety officers, for traffic enforcement is one of the things that they're doing there. So I know we've had lots of discussion about traffic enforcement within Warman. And maybe at some point that might be a venue or that maybe want to give some consideration to exploring further. So that was kind of one of the takeaways I had from that particular meeting. As mentioned when the delegation was here, Legends Golf Board meeting tomorrow evening. So I can at least I'll have a little bit of further discussion around just those out here. And see where that discussion goes. And I'm basically planning on kind of setting them to plug themselves back into the administration as a there. I think it's probably the best way to be able to do it is one voice for every council. So.
Can I comment on that? Okay. So Councillor Seed commented that he was on there. It was brought to him. He brought it up. He dealt with it. They were supposed to be dealing with it. Then I was on there. I brought it up. They were on me. I went and met with half the people that were here tonight. Looked and they brought me in their backyard, showed me, talked to Davis and brought it up. It was going to be dealt with. Now, this is Councillor Dooley's. So that's like, if you go by years, we're 6 years in where they've been.
We're gonna have a chance to talk about this.
So I just adding in, like, glad you brought it up that, you know, we should maybe like put a little more pressure on this stuff. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'll be interested in the reports and seeing all the information from both sides and then just what we can do with time to our contract. So I'm looking forward to that conversation too. Yes. Anything else?
No.
Okay, okay, we'll move down to correspondence, and that is your package there of information. So motion for that. Councilor,
I move to most of this meeting agenda package, be published.
seconder, Councilor Cripps. Any questions or comments? I do actually. The very end of it, which is a lot of moving it through, is the AI part. That it's actually interesting that they really looked at their policy at that's Augustina that presented that and some of the key messaging and some of the alignment that even some of the things that were brought forward. So I appreciate that. We're all sort of in that mode now of muddling through and trying to figure out pathways. So I think that SUMA, we're trying to give a direction from that level, and there. So I saw that alignment right away. That right now it's trying to be very high level, but it's at the same time it's something that they're dealing with. Any comments that came out of that from?
Nothing significant. It was mostly just a report that, you know, they had attended, what was it, AI on Prairies, I think it was almost like a seminar kind of session.
Okay.
So there wasn't anything like specific, just more high level. And it's really that role of AI is a little bit of the wild west in some ways because things change pretty frequently.
Yes. Okay. Any other comments from City Caucus? Councilor Seaton.
I think that just something I'd just like to make bring the council sense just so that they're aware if they're not, is that along the AI platform, just if there's questions or things like that from just personal vantage point. I actually incorporated an AI company, which I think some of you know, and I'm now certified in the 4 major platforms of AI with their full training, implementation, and design process. So if there are questions or concerns about AI, such as that, then I'm more than willing to offer some of that. And I am doing business with some of the municipalities with regards to their AI structures.
Good, thanks. Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? Carry. Okay, other reports, turbidity. Motion, please. Councilor Bennett.
Move that the July 2026 turbidity report be filed as presented.
Seconder. Councilor Mason. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carry. Accounts. Motion, please. Councilor Dooley.
I move to approve the city accounts as presented by checks number 4648 to 4740 for the amount of $4,204,039.60. And the payroll voucher is numbered 072526 to 081526 in the amount of $323,861.49.
Second. Councillor Grips, any questions or comments like us? Councillor C.
Just one comment, and it's been addressed, unfortunately, Director Carl obviously had to step out. I did raise some questions just with regard to some of the amounts and things that were on there with a couple of the payables. And what she had explained to me is that some of them, as an example, there was one for a suspected water leak for 9,900 and change. And I was like, what is this all about? She explained to me that it was actually they suspected there was a water leak. It was dug up, it was checked, it was verified that it was actually the property owner or the developer's responsibility. Subsequently, it was billed back to the developer. So what I did ask is if there would be a possibility of coming up with some formula or some way to indicate on some of those charges that these are bill backs, so to speak. So it's, yes, the city is essentially paying $9,900, but we are not $9,900 up. So, because for me, when I see things like that, I'm like, I do get the odd question. There's one resident in particular that usually calls me before meetings and asks about some of these numbers. So I think that something like that is a good clarification, much in line with, and I appreciate how now we kind of have the designations at the end of all of them that are fire department, whatever, Parks and Rec, whatever the case is, because it just adds a lot of clarity for residents that although there might only be a few, there are some that look at it. It just adds really good clarification for where that's going on. So I do appreciate that she was receptive to that report.
Other questions or comments? Councillor Beck, yeah.
Yeah, so I just wanted to thank the administration for answering the questions that I had earlier today. So thank you very much for that. I wanted to point out check number 4666, just over $700, or just under $800. And that's basically our health spending. So like there again, set that up for our organization, I believe in terms of additional support. This is the first time we'll call seeing something come through there. So like there again, just knowing that that improvement from from the organization standpoint is certainly so I just wanted to recognize that particular point. And also this year, I had seen that it was the policing first quarter, and it was noted as 2026-2027. So I kind of clarified that. Apparently, the policing first quarter is our second quarter. So at least that makes sense from that particular aspect, which explains why it kind of put over 2026. So thanks for all the clarifications.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? Carries. Motion going camera. Councillor Cripps.
Whereas section 94(2) of the Cities Act states the council may close all or part of their meetings to public if the matter to be discussed is within one of the exemptions in Part 3 of the Local Authority Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. Therefore, be it resolved, the council go in camera to discuss personnel as per section 18(1) of the Local Authority Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act.
Second. Councillor C. All in favor? Yes.